Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. We have a legislature that meets every other year. Or does it? Andy has the rundown.
Sam? First today we talked to Senator Randolph Townsend. Tomorrow's the first meeting of the Legislative Commission, which he chairs. What are all these interim studies? Are we going to full-time lawmakers? And then we talked to Scott Craigie and Larry Matheis. You know, we talked to them last week and I didn't give them much of a chance to finish what they were saying. Today we'll let them finish and then I'll comment. Sam?
Thanks, Andy. And on the Pundit panel today, Dick Gammick, Martha Gould, and the return of Jim Denton. It's all coming up next on the all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
Nevada Newsmakers, brought to you in part by Charter Communication.
The Aboud family has an appetite for dialogue. Agree or disagree, have the conversation. All opinions are welcome. Since 1977, Adele's.
Catch a straight, dine at 8. Lucky you. Lucky you. Dance till 1. Have some fun. Lucky you. Lucky you. Taste the shrimp. Have a sip. Try the pool. Play it cool. At the Sienna Hotel Spa Casino. Lucky you. Yeah!
The biggest risk your company can take.
Well, Barbara, you did very well on your interview.
Hiring employees can help your business get to the next level.
And your resume looks outstanding.
And it can also expose you to corporate crimes and costly lawsuits that can bring your company to its knees.
So, we'd like to offer you a position.
Before you hire another employee, hire the professionals at Employer Links. Call today to get our free CD-ROM, The Top 8 Risk of Hiring Employees.
If you own a business and want to maximize your company's potential, join the Retail Association of Nevada. Our membership benefits include the Nevada Retail Network Self-Insured Group, providing workers' compensation coverage that can lower your rates. That savings can go directly to your bottom line. We are an effective pro-business organization that lobbies on behalf of our business members. The Retail Association of Nevada, protecting Nevada businesses for 35 years. Call 882-1700 to see what we can do for your organization.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with Sam Shad, political analyst Ande Engleman on No Holds Barred Political Forum. Now, from the News 4 Broadcast Center, here's Sam Shad.
And welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. We're joined by Senator Randolph Townsend, and Andy has some questions here.
I certainly do. I've got this agenda here for the Legislative Commission. Now, the Legislative Commission, so that you understand, controls the policy that comes out of the legislature when they're not in session. The Interim Finance Committee does the money, but the Commission does the policy. And they have 3 or 4 pages here of committees that will be meeting during this interim. Senator, are we going to a full-time legislature?
Well, Andy, first of all, the agenda, it really reflects the first agenda meeting because that's when we make all the appointments to the interim study committees. And the problem has always been that senators who generally are busy going back to their lives don't want to serve on anything, or they don't want to serve on much. The Assembly, however, whenever we get those requests back, there's 42 people who want to be on everything. So that's been the tough balance. And we've debated the issue, and we'll continue to debate it in the interim, of whether we should create these committees or simply have the committees of jurisdiction meet maybe every quarter and discuss these issues. And that'll be a debate, but this shouldn't go as long as it looks.
Okay, Senator, when these people come up for these interim studies, they get paid, right?
Yes.
how much is this going to cost us? We don't have a lot of money right now in the state.
The traditional cost of the interim has to do with 3 committees in the interim that are for the Senate, 3 for the Assembly, and then there are the standing committees that we have created that are ongoing committees. The normal budget cycle it hasn't changed in the last 10 years because we've had basically a fixed number with a fixed amount of meetings. So that way, the real issue is to make sure that we have enough money for flexibility at IFC, not the Commission. The Commission's budget should always be about the same to review those issues.
Which, can you give us a ballpark figure of what that
I want to say it's about $1 million. It's not as much as it looks because there's only a handful of meetings, and we encourage people to use the telecommunication capabilities, which, by the way, started almost 15 years ago now, and is now at UNR in the med school, is at the PUC, is at the legislative building, the state building in Las Vegas. We're spreading it around so the public can actually participate, not just in the legislative meetings, but more importantly, some of the things you attend, which are the interim meetings and the regulatory meetings that are as important to the public as any of the policy we generate.
And Senator, I know the media many times ignores these committees. We won't. We will be covering them.
You turn around, Andy will be there. All right, let's change gears here a moment. When the governor was on the show a couple of weeks ago, he said that he's not going to raise taxes in the next biennium. And he said, acknowledging that we're $200 million short going in. I look at that and I say, okay, so we're already $200 million short. If Jim Gibbons were to run for governor, he would certainly not run on a pro-tax basis. We could end up with perhaps 10 years of not seeing tax increases in this state, and over that period of time, we'd increase the population just in Las Vegas alone by nearly 750,000 people. What do you think?
Well, I don't sit on the budget committees, but I've been handed this wonderful responsibility of trying to manage cash flow for the state, and that's how I got involved in the tax issues. The governor has a right, obviously, and a responsibility to set policy from the executive branch. But in the end, whether he proposes no taxes, and obviously he has to propose a balanced budget, the legislature is still free to do what it wants to do.
And he's talking, by the way, about massive cuts in his next budget.
Yeah. Well, obviously we're going to look at whatever he proposes. I think a dialogue between the interim money committees and the governor is important at this point right away, because we have lost the estate tax. We are concerned about the budget projections. And of course, in the next few days, we're going to have an election in California that could dramatically change our revenue picture, particularly here in the north. And believe it or not, it affects a lot of the smaller and medium-sized casinos in southern Nevada.
But can we just explain briefly, if Cruz Bustamante gets in, that would mean that there would be a lot more expanded Indian gaming?
You'll have it everywhere. Where Macy's used to be, or Starbucks, you're going to see Indian gaming in California.
The best governor money can buy.
Absolutely. At least they put up a lot of dough for them, and it's going to reflect in their policy. So we have to be concerned about the lack of growth on gaming and sales that we're starting to see in northern Nevada already. It's a deep concern to all of us, particularly those who have built the properties in the north. But overall, we have a deep concern about the whole north-south issue. Now are we going to get into the sea? They can't carry their weight. The South is really where it belongs. Let's move everything there of value. We're not going to subsidize these dying communities. We're hearing it already and have for years, so we have to be very sensitive to that.
So you think that we are going to deal with responsibly and actually have to raise some taxes here along the way?
It's hard to say now, Sam. You want to kind of keep yourself flexible because you don't know what's going to happen. If there were another tragedy in this country that affected tourism, we'd have to have dramatic cuts. One of the things that you would probably have to do is go out to the public and say, here are your options. How draconian do you want the cuts? How big do you want the tax increases? Do you want one over the other? And have a dialogue with the public. And that's probably the next 18 months worth of discussion.
Excuse me, Senator, I'm sorry, I know we're out of time, but I just very quickly, you've been spending a lot of time at the Taxation Commission trying to clarify the tax law. Does it look as though you're going to be successful to keep a lot of these little people from being hit from this tax that could have been interpreted otherwise?
We're blessed to have wonderful appointments on there, and they understand the problem. They understand we didn't write it as good as we should have, and they're helping us out of the problem, particularly given the average Nevadan. I think we're going to be successful.
Gee, maybe we shouldn't do it all at the last minute, eh? Thank you so much, Senator Townsend. And when we come back, Larry Matheis, Scott Craigie, and the conversation continues right here on Nevada Newsmakers.
Experience adrenaline with Curtis Adams. Watch him defy modern science with amazing acrobatics and sexy show-stopping effects that'll make your pulse race. Adrenaline. It's a new kind of magic. One night only, September 27th, live at the Pioneer.
Adrenaline. Curtis Adams. Magic that rocks.
It's hot.
Would you like to savor a Trento pork chop? Or maybe pasta rags with grilled chicken? Hugo's Tuscan Grill at D'Andrea is a celebration of color, flavor, and freshness. Each dish is created from natural, wholesome foods that is delicious and nutritious. Hugo's is a comfortable restaurant with breathtaking city views. If you enjoy great food and good company, visit us here at Hugo's. It's the best that dining can be. 2900 South D'Andrea Parkway in Sparks.
Welcome to Sushi Club, best sushi in town. The Sushi Club in Independence Square used the best quality products. The sushi is dynamite, and the service is just wonderful.
The Sushi Club is bigger and better. We have 11 sushi chefs on staff, and the service is great.
All your friends will tell you that Sushi Club is the best place for the best sushi.
Come join us for lunch or dinner.
The Sushi Club, 294 East Moana Lane in the Independence Square.
Now that's great sushi.
To experience the royal cuisine of India, you need some serious magic or simply transport yourself to India Garden, right here in Reno, where you'll discover Indian specialties refined over centuries. Sikh kebab, tandoori dishes cooked in our own tandoor oven, biryani specialties, curries, fresh-baked Indian bread, over a dozen vegetarian dishes, even dishes rare to India like dosa, South Indian-style crepes. India Garden off South Virginia near Sports West. We are India.
And now, back to Nevada Newsmakers with Sam Shad and Ande Engleman.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we're joined by Scott Craigie, who's president of Alrus Consulting, and Larry Matheis, who's the executive director of the Nevada State Medical Association. We're going to pick up where we left off last week.
That's right, Sam. Just to remind everybody, last week, Scott Craigie and Larry Matheis were trying to make a point that the Republicans in the state have all been sort of labeled conservatives because of what they call the Mean 15, and that as a consequence, when they lose the recall, or if they lose the recall for the governor, that will be a loss for them. I kept interrupting them. They didn't really get a chance to make their point. So now I'll let them make their point before I comment.
Well, and before we go there, I think the thrust of all this is to look at the new energy level in the state, in the political end of the state, that was created by the three-session legislative session. And right now you see a number of movements that are inside the community, whoever is supporting them or running them. The fact of the matter is, we're going to see many more attempts, at least, made to run referenda or constitutional amendments. Some of these that are focused on general change, some of these that are focused actually on making some groups second-class citizens. There's a talk of one that would limit what gaming could contribute to legislative candidates. There's another one that talks about restricting public employees from being able to serve in the legislature. So in some cases, they're trying to smite the enemy or make reform, depending on which side of that issue you're on. It's going to be a much higher energy level and a much, much more aggressive campaign season this next year.
And a much lower intellectual level, I'm afraid. I think one thing that guides all this is anger. There's the universal anger and the sense that it's not yet focused. And that may make for a fun political season. It makes for an awful governing process. At some point, there actually are going to have to be people who sit down and work on government and try to make it work. And out of these kinds of arguments, as they degrade, you don't get the kind of people around the table in the mood to work on government. I think we've seen it in the last two sessions of the legislature, the deterioration of the ability of the center to hold, of people to eventually talk to each other and respect each other and respect the process enough. The governor, the legislative leadership, and more than that, the legislative members aren't
I just
in
want
the
to
mood
clarify.
to do
You're
that.
talking about the ability to compromise.
The ability to work together and compromise.
All right, but doesn't that take leadership, and doesn't that allow, in the long run, a way for people who are potential leaders to come up through the ranks and become who they should become?
You know, it does, Sam, and that's true. There will be new leadership that is developed, whether they take the top positions in this next legislative session or down the road, because turnover in the legislature is rampant in Nevada. The problem that I see, the concern that I have, is that we have already seen a polarization, a separation of leadership, conservatives and liberals, in the legislature. So they're further and further apart, and there's less common ground. In this environment, with all of these anti-establishment type referenda and campaign positions, we even see a breakup happening in some of the caucuses, the leadership caucuses in our two houses. It is a time of separation when we are facing these critical issues.
Okay. Now, I've given some time. Let me.
All right, go.
Okay. What I hear you saying is that if the American public would just stay out of it and sit back and be quiet, then people could do what they need to do with only lobbyists telling them what they need to hear.
Actually, I would say the opposite. I would say the
Before you
opposite.
answer that, I mean, really, we're supposed to have different parties. For so long, we've had the same party. They were called Republicans and Democrats, but they were all the same party. Isn't this, in a way, good for the system?
Actually, what I think is the real problem is that the people have been driven out of the process. What you've got left are only a smaller and smaller minorities who are angry about something, who want something stopped. That what's been driven out because of the partisan nature of the debates, because of the ad hominem nature of the process, is. We have a very small populace that's involved. I think what we need is more democracy. What we need is more participation,
actually,
and that'll moderate
You're
things.
agreeing with them, and I'm going to agree with you guys too. I'm not suggesting that we should run out and stop all this. What my concern is that there, in some cases, won't be enough moderation in these massive changes. I'm worried that people who are on the far right or the far left are going to be the ones who dominate what the content of these runs will be, and they will kill their own opportunity to develop a changed, moderate government. And that concerns me a lot, because in the end, it's got to function on its
but
own.
within the Democratic and Republican state parties, is there not enough of a center there that with, dare I use the word again, appropriate marketing, that they will be able to get their message out there?
That's right, but they're not taking the lead. Go ahead.
And remember that what's happening is you've got interest groups that have very narrow issue bases that now are the principal funders of the two parties. And they don't pull people more to the moderate center. They pull people more to the extremes in order to keep the money machine going.
But
so
don't
it's
you
a niche
think,
marketing
though,
that takes us
once people
further
realize
extremes.
this, that you're going to actually find more people wanting to get involved in the process if they feel that it's being
I hope
hijacked?
so.
Honest to
I
gosh,
hope so.
Despite the fact you have a viewership here that's probably counter to this, most people don't sit at home watching the trends and going, it's getting a little haywire out there, and get involved. What happens is only when it gets out of control do then they look for ways to bring it back. We are in a pattern of change right now. Question is it going to be constructive or destructive? And that's the issue.
Okay, clearly what we're going to need to do is have them back again and go with part 3 of this. And frankly, I'm ready to name some names as to who I think some of the problem makers were.
Andy's going to name some names. Thank you, gentlemen. We'll be back with the Pundits on Nevada Newsmakers right after this.
Before you head to Carson, take care of yourself with a visit to Tamarack Junction. Catch a hot cup of coffee and the morning news on one of our 32 TVs and enjoy the best food in South Reno. Tamarack Junction, your junction for fun. South Virginia and Amati Ranch Parkway.
The Abowed family has an appetite for dialogue. Agree or disagree, have the conversation. All opinions are welcome. Since 1977, Adele's.
Today's lesson, another reason to take the Gold Rush Club Card Challenge. With the Gold Rush card, you really have 3 cards in one. Use your cash back. You still keep your comps and drawing tickets. Use your comps. You still keep your cash and drawing tickets. And with your drawing tickets, you could win thousands in cold hard cash every week. And still keep your cash back and comps. Does your club add up? Graduate to the Gold Rush Players Club. It's the smart thing to do. The Gold Dust West, south on Keystone, east on 4th.
When you sign up for Wells Fargo free checking, you get more than free checking. You get the freedom to bank when and where you want. Wells Fargo, the next stage.
Make your daily commute easy with breakfast or lunch at the Tamarack Junction. Enjoy daily specials, super fast service, and South Reno's freshest morning meals. Tamarack Junction, your junction for fun. South Virginia and Amati Ranch Parkway.
And now, back to Nevada Newsmakers with Sam Shad and Ande Engleman.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we will dive right in here to our pundit panel. Jim Denton is with us, Martha Gould, and Dick Gammick. Welcome, all of you. Now, you've got some news from the courts in California.
Yes, the Ninth Circuit Court, the 11-member Ninth Circuit Court just came out and ruled that the election can move forward in California. There is talk that the ACLU may try and appeal this to the U.S. Supreme Court. Chances of the U.S. Supreme Court hearing it, I think, are pretty slim.
There's no federal issue.
No.
This is a state election. It has nothing to do with the feds. Butt out. This is states' rights, 10th Amendment.
Well, you know, the thing that I thought was interesting about that decision this morning, it's an example, at least in one state, of a court granting the relief that was asked for anyway.
Unlike ours.
Unlike ours,
Okay,
yeah.
now, Jim, you are the political expert here. Should we write off Gray Davis at this point and say that Bustamante is definitely going to win?
I would not write off Gray Davis. I think one of two things are likely to happen with McClintock in the race. The last poll that I saw that came out a couple of days ago, Sam, shows about 10% of the people still favor recalling Davis over not recalling the California governor. McClintock in that race, as a second Republican, forces Schwarzenegger in the position of having to run a primary and a general election at the same time. And that could, if McClintock stays in that race, I think Bustamante has to be considered the favorite to be the governor if Davis is recalled. Today I'd have to predict that Davis actually will get recalled. I think that will basically be something that's factored on turnout.
Dick, what are Schwarzenegger's chances?
I agree with Jim totally on this one. I think the fact that McClintock is elected to stay in there is going to split a lot of the vote. I think McClintock would come out. Then Schwarzenegger would be the favored candidate, assuming that the recall goes through. I still have a hang up there too. I'm not so sure.
I don't think the recall is going to go through. I think the recall will fail.
I think one of the things that really hurt Schwarzenegger was I'm only going to participate in this one debate, and it happens to be the debate where they pass out the questions and let you go home and do your homework and then come back and answer them. I think that hurt him.
Well, I'm still trying to figure out why he decided to get into the race in the first place.
Well, I'm just glad McClintock is there because at least the Republican Party can hold up its head proudly, at least those that are not supporting Schwarzenegger. They'd have a real politician there, perhaps running for governor.
You know what? That's good. Senator Townsend brought up an interesting point, which is the effect on Nevada by what happens in this election.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it could be disastrous. It really could be. I really am praying that the recall fails and Davis stays in office.
You know, I think that one thing that we have to deal with is no matter what, whether it's in California or across the country, gaming is going to increase across the country.
Exponentially.
And we need to be prepared for that and to continue to have Las Vegas. They last week at the Gaming Expo, they were very confident about the growth they've seen this year already.
About all their cash.
And well, the amount of cash, and they're continuing to see growth. I think that you're going to end up finding a lot of Nevada companies are going to get involved more in Indian gaming. And
I think that's true.
Maybe not so bad for Nevada.
I think that's true, but I think what someone ought to pay attention to in Nevada is the $8 or $9 million that Cruz Bustamante has raised from Indian gaming in California. Now, the courts have told him that he can't spend that, but that they are certainly free to spend it. But that tells you the depth of support that at least Bustamante
Well,
has among gaming in California.
Aside from Bustamante, let's go back to something you said about the proliferation of gaming throughout the United States, throughout the world for that matter. I think that we have to realize in the state of Nevada that gaming is no longer going to be a primary source of funding, of revenue, and that means we have to address what's happening in our education system. We have to address being much more assertive in bringing good paying economic development into this state.
And we've seen that in northern Nevada.
Not so much in
not
southern
so much
Nevada.
in southern Nevada.
But you're starting to see that in southern Nevada. And you know, when it comes to education, I don't think it's a function of having the dollars in the state. I think it's a function of having the priorities right in the state, and that's why I think that you'll find. I think you'll find that the proposal that Congressman Jim Gibbons is going to place on the ballot next year, requiring the legislature to fund education first, is going to be take a major role.
And you work with Jim Gibbons. Can we get one last comment? We
Yeah,
don't have much time.
10 seconds.
10 seconds each on Nevada's Supreme Court. I got them to be quiet.
You know, Andy, I have to
do it in 10 seconds.
Andy, I have to disclose that Bill Maupin, I handled Bill Maupin's election campaign, so that's my only comment. That's my only comment.
And I used to room with Bill Maupin.
Okay, we've known more personal stuff than we need to know. We're out of here.
Big Apple Pizza, best pizza in Nevada, take one.
Today we're here, we're making homemade meatballs for a meatball parm. You like cheesesteak? I think you're like in South Philly right now. It's the best cheese ever made. Now that's how a Philly cheesesteak's supposed to look.
And here's Little Cole.
This is authentic. We'll throw some pepperoni in here. Not gonna be shy about it. Yeah, I bet you guys didn't know I could do that. Don't skimp on the toppings. Authentic as it gets. Big Apple Pizza and Subs on the corner of Bering and McCarran. A New Jersey guy who knows how to make an East Coast pizza.
Would you like to savor a Trento pork chop? Or maybe pasta rags with grilled chicken? Hugo's Tuscan Grill at D'Andrea is a celebration of color, flavor, and freshness. Each dish is created from natural, wholesome foods that is delicious and nutritious. Hugo's is a comfortable restaurant with breathtaking city views. If you enjoy great food and good company, visit us here at Hugo's. It's the best that dining can be. 2900 South D'Andrea Parkway in Sparks.
Experience adrenaline with Curtis Adams. Watch him defy modern science with amazing acrobatics and sexy show-stopping effects that'll make your pulse race. Adrenaline. It's a new kind of magic. One night only, September 27th, live at the Pioneer.
Adrenaline. Curtis Adams. Magic that rocks.
It's hot.
Nevada Newsmakers, brought to you in part by Charter Communication.
We'll leave the Supreme Court for another day, but it's coming.
Yes, tomorrow, John Killoran talking about Walter Cronkite.
Be a great show. We'll see you tomorrow.